Hello and good morning. I welcome you all to today's session of the Daily Newspaper Digest. This, as you know, is a place where we discuss the most important news stories from the Hindu newspaper. My name is Harshmeet Singh, and we will not delay any further. Let's begin. As you know, at the end of the session, we also have a practice quiz for you. So do stay till the end to test your knowledge and see whether you were able to answer the questions based on the articles that we have discussed here today. First article that we have here is based on an important idea of wetlands and wetland conservation. Now, I'm sure in environment you read a lot about Ramsar Convention, you read a lot about wetland conservation. Why is it that these are extremely important? Wetlands have an extremely important role to play because of a lot of benefits that they give to us. For example, they are a very good carbon sink, so they can store a lot of carbon. They can extract carbon from the atmosphere, thus allowing the atmosphere to cool down. They can also manage excess water. So when there's a lot of rainfall, you will see a lot of water being stored in them, and that is where they are important. If you look at many of the big cities in India, for example, let's say Bangalore or Bangalore, it has been known as a city of lakes, but in the past few decades, you have seen a lot of lakes have just disappeared, and there are big buildings that have been made in place of those lakes. The result is that when there is a huge rainfall now, there are no such lakes to store water, which leads to flooding. This is a big problem in India and in many other parts of the world. Because of increasing population pressure and the need to accommodate that population, you are now letting go of your wetlands. This is where the article talks about how important the wetlands are, where is it that we are lagging, and what is it that we can do now to retrieve those wetlands as quickly as possible. The article gives certain very scary numbers about the loss of wetlands around the world and in India. For example, it says since 1900, around 50% global wetlands have been lost. So, over half of them. Between 1970 and 2015, the era of rapid industrialization, 35% wetland areas have declined globally. Now, there is an international index that measures all of this. There's something called Wetland Extent Trends. It indicates a 0.78% annual loss rate. So every year we are losing 0.7% area that is considered under wetlands. And because of these, there has also been a problem of biodiversity. See, these wetlands are preferred by a lot of migratory species and birds as their feeding ground. This is where all these problems of biodiversity crisis have taken a much more magnified shape. Around 81% of inland wetland species and 36% coastal marine species have seen a population decline since 1970. Again, when you are seeing a population decline for such a large period, or such a long period rather, it means that someday or the other they will go extinct as well, because the amount of or number of wetlands that we have are cutting down or are being cut down drastically. Now, why is it that this conservation matters? Why is it that wetlands are so important? As I told you in the beginning as well, number one, they help in water management, so they absorb excess rainfall. They also help in carbon sequestration. They are well known biodiversity hotspots for migratory birds and aquatic life. Not just this, they also help in sustainable urban planning by regulating microclimates. We still have some time in our hand if we want to revive these wetlands and bring back to their prime, but it will take a lot of effort. The Ramsar Convention on Wetlands emphasized that wetland conservation should not be treated as a standalone initiative, and it should be a part of broader environmental initiatives. Many countries around the world, including India, are working to restore wetlands, but again, the problem here is you have to choose between development and conservation. And usually, in this choice, it is development that wins over conservation. Now, if you talk about India's context, India is a signatory to the Ramsar Convention. As of 2023, India had 75 Ramsar sites, about 8% of the total wetland area. Also, our wetlands include coastal wetlands, riverine system, inland water bodies, and all of these. Now, for India specifically as well, especially in bigger cities, you have seen a lot of loss of wetlands. For example, Mumbai lost 71% of its wetland between 1970 and 2014. 70%, just imagine. For Mumbai specifically, it's very problematic because it's a small city with a huge population and population increasing, people coming in. Because of this population pressure, you would have to accommodate them somewhere. And this is where the wetlands have to pay the price. In Kolkata, wetlands have shrunk by 36% from 1991 to 2021. Chennai lost 85% of its wetland. And that is why you will see increased number of instances of flooding in cities such as Chennai. Now, just because a site is considered as a Ramsar site does not mean that it will be automatically conserved, because a lot of this infrastructure development in the urban areas does affect these. Not just infrastructure, but even agricultural expansion. When you have higher population, you have to feed them, you have to arrange their food. So for that also, wetlands have to pay the price. And this is why just calling them a Ramsar site would not really be enough. Now, what is it that India can do? Ramsar Convention, in its fifth strategic plan, outlines the actions that can be taken to ensure that wetlands are safeguarded. These are the measures that India can take: strengthen wetland conservation rules, make it difficult for any construction activities, agricultural activities to happen in these wetland areas. Incentivize community participation. See, it has been proven beyond doubt that if you have to conserve any area, any hotspot, the local community living in that area has to be taken into confidence. Unless the people living in that area want to conserve that particular feature, it will not be possible. We have to incentivize the local community, have an integrated wetland place in private in climate policy. When you talk about climate change, etc., we should focus on how wetlands can play an important role here. Don't just focus on renewable energy, etc. Focus on wetland conservation and have good urban planning in place. You can't just randomly build stuff, randomly build buildings at random places. You have to first plan and see if it is affecting the wetlands or not. A few bits and pieces of information beyond this also is important for you to remember. As of Jan 2025, so Article 10 talks about 2023, but I'm giving you more updated data. As of Jan 2025, India has 89 Ramsar sites in total. These are wetlands of international importance. As per the Wetlands Conservation Management Rule of 2017, Indian government, in our definition, when we define wetlands, we do not include river channels, paddy fields, or other areas utilized for commercial activities. In total, if you look at state-wise distribution, it's Tamil Nadu that has the highest number of Ramsar sites in India with 20 Ramsar sites. Do remember this information. This is important. They may ask you this. This is not the most updated one. This is a map from 2020-21 from Wildlife Institute of India that gives you an indication about the Ramsar sites in the country. And again, and repeating, this is not the most updated one, but this is the one that I could find on the website of Wildlife Institute of India. The Ramsar Convention that you hear a lot about, it's an international treaty for conservation of wetlands, and India became a party of it in 1982. Do tell me in the comment section quickly, where exactly is Ramsar? So this Ramsar is a place in which country? We also have Montreux's Record. It is a list of wetlands which are facing significant challenges due to human impact. So if a wetland is included in this list, means the wetland is not doing very well. There are some problems and it is facing major challenges. This is what India has been doing on its own. There are certain initiatives that we have taken. We have the National Plan for Conservation of Aquatic Ecosystem. We have Wetland Rule 2017 that we just discussed. Because we have a lot of wetlands, we are trying to convert them into tourist places as well and engage local community also in the long run. Wetlands also are directly bound or directly linked to a sustainable development goal. As you know, there are total 17 sustainable development goals that the world is trying to achieve by 2030. Sustainable development goal number 6 talks about clean water sanitation. Number 13 talks about climate action. Both of these are directly connected to wetlands, and thus their conservation will help us in achieving this goal. Before we move on to the second article, a quick reminder, you can download our current affair magazine and notes. You can check out our description of the video for more important information regarding this. In this, you can get previous year question papers, you can get current affair PDFs, free mock tests for the prelims examination, much more. Call on this number to get any other information regarding this, and do check out the description of the video. There are also multiple offline batches starting in our offline centers. There are two centers in Delhi, which is in Karol Bagh and Mukherjee Nagar. These are the dates for beginning of the batch. Again, for any query regarding this, you can check out the description of the video. Then there are batches started in Patna and Prayagraj as well. Do check these out. The second article that we have here is about AI and what is the path that India is taking to fulfill our AI ambition. I'm sure you all are aware of the fact that there are increasing talks about AI, that is artificial intelligence, being used in different sections around the world. Medicine, robotics, even the countries are using it in defense. There are also concerns about whether it will take up certain jobs or not. Now, the fact is, AI is here to stay and you cannot close your eyes. That means you will be in a much better position if you just embrace it, learn it, and adopt it. As a country, it's much better to have policies around it rather than just ignoring it. Now, if you look around the world, how other countries are dealing with AI, there are two big models that have come out. One is a European Union model. So in European Union, they have imposed strict AI regulations. Means in European Union, they understand that AI can be misused very, very easily. You would have seen fake photos, fake videos running. For example, someone might make a fake video of a very famous personality, very famous politician that might bring unrest into an area. So what EU has done is EU has started making very strict regulations about AI. Means they have told that this is the area where AI cannot be used, and if you use it, then you will be punished. On the other hand, the second model is the US model. The US model is much more liberal. They are allowing much more freedom to the people working in the field of AI to explore where AI can be used. So they have adopted a laissez-faire model, prioritizing innovation over regulation. Now, none of these is wrong or right. It is just a different way of thinking. For India specifically, we are kind of in the middle of the two. We are still thinking about how to regulate this. Now, there are issues in India that we are facing. For example, there are regulatory uncertainties. We have conflicting policies about AI. We don't have one specific policy document. Then we also have a problem that a lot of AI and its technology, its algorithm, a lot of this early research is with foreign tech giants. They are the ones who control AI infrastructure. For example, you have heard of a lot of these AI companies or AI chatbots, etc., that are coming up, but you do not really learn about the ones that are being made in India. So India is kind of lagging behind when it comes to the AI bandwagon. We also have been seeing the problem of deep fakes, AI generated photos and videos making round across the entire country. And in a country like India, where we have seen a lot of violence in the name of religion, in the name of misinformation, this becomes a very dangerous precedent. India also is seeing a lot of jobs, not a lot, but a few jobs being going away because the companies are now using AI for automated purposes. Think of it this way. You used to call a call center, they would someone would pick up the phone to help you out. But if the company can now do the same with AI, if there is a chatbot there, if there is an AI model that is helping you resolve your issue, why would the company need someone to pick up the phone? So those kind of jobs, content writing jobs, they are the ones that are at a lot of danger, especially in a country such as India. Now, the interesting part is that India's position as an IT powerhouse means that we can actually make good use of this. We can actually make good use of AI if we are making sure that we have the required skills and we put in the required efforts. For example, experts say that India should not impose excess regulation, because if we regulate it too much, then we would not allow our innovators to actually use and experiment with this. We rather, if we want to experiment or if we want to compete with US and China, we have to let the innovators free and we can't really restrict the use of AI, at least as of now. It is said that India should adopt kind of a mixed approach. First, be or have certain regulation in place, means have certain rules and regulations. What are the areas where AI cannot be used? But then apart from that, we should also offer innovative friendly policies for those who want to come and innovate in the field of AI. The government should not take away that chance from them. These are the suggestions that the article gives for India to move ahead in the field of AI. First, ensure open source AI model. Open source model means which is available to everyone. Anyone can go and use it. Open source means, for example, let's say I built an algorithm and this is open source, means anyone can come and use it. For example, let's say the government created UPI. So the government made it open for the companies like PhonePe, Paytm, etc. that you can use this model of UPI. You don't have to build it from the scratch yourself. So make it open source. Develop AI talent. A lot of universities, colleges are now offering courses in AI, but it's more about catching people in the name of AI, and it's not really about teaching them right now what is the state of the art AI and how can we go ahead. But the government has to make sure that the best brains are teaching in the field of AI. Balance regulation with innovation. Have strategic alliances with companies, with nations that are way ahead than India in the form of AI research, and ensure there is computing resource that India has available. See, all these kind of technology, AI, etc., all this requires a lot of resources. You require huge data centers to be set up in order for these AI calculations, order for these AI models to be successful. And this is where the government has to make sure that this computational power infrastructure is available to the companies who are working in this field. Now, if you go beyond this and take a look at what India has been doing in the field of AI, there are certain initiatives that India has taken. For example, the government released India's AI Mission 2023. The idea was to boost skills in the field of AI. We also have a national strategy on AI by Niti Aayog. In 2018, they suggested a human centric AI approach, making sure that it is ethical in its usage and there is accountability for anyone who is actually misusing it. AI power, cyber attacks, deepfakes, etc., these have been a big problem and they will only become stronger and stronger as the time goes on. So the countries have to be prepared to regulate these in the long run. It is expected that AI can contribute up to $1 trillion to India's GDP by 2035. But again, for that to turn into a reality, we have to be ready and give it the kind of support that this sector requires. The next article is about ISRO's Aditya L1 mission. Now, as you know, ISRO's Aditya mission is a mission to the sun, is a mission that is undertaking study of the sun and the sun's surface. It is called Aditya L1 because it is at the L1 Lagrange point. Why is it in the news now? It's in the news because it has taken some extremely important photos and data about solar flare at the sun. So India's dedicated mission has made an observation by capturing first ever image of a solar flare kernel using the Solar Ultraviolet Imaging Telescope, that is SOOT payload. This is a big milestone because solar flares are these energy bursts on the surface of the sun which can impact the satellites, which can impact light, which can impact a lot of things in a solar system. So to study them in detail and to understand them is a very, very, very big discovery. Now, these are the major findings that we have seen from Aditya L1's observation. First, this photo that we are talking about was taken on 22nd of February. They observed a solar flare called X6.3 class. It is one of the most intense type of solar eruption that we have on the surface. It is captured in lower solar atmosphere, which is the photosphere and the chromosphere. And again, it has allowed the scientists to understand how the temperature has been changing in sun's plasma, because solar flares is also responsible for damaging a lot of the satellites, damaging a lot of infrastructure in the space. So to understand this would also help the nations around the world to make their satellites much more effective and less prone to these issues of solar flare. This payload, that is SOOT, they detected this solar flare in the near ultraviolet wavelength range, about 200 to 400 nanometer. And this is the first time that such this wavelength has been observed in such great detail. That is why it is an important discovery for India and for solar scientists around the world. Now, some of the other things that this Aditya L1 mission is achieving is, number one, it can, as I said, help us understand any disruption that is caused in satellite communication, because of which the solar flares are responsible for this. It will also help us ensure that there is no downtime for the satellites. It will also help us make our GPS system, make our systems around the world much more robust. Aditya L1 can also help predict solar storms now. It will help us in ensuring that again the timing of the missions that we send from the Earth are timed perfectly so that they are not interfering with these solar flares. The data that is being collected by ISRO can be used for monitoring and modeling of solar activity in the future. For all of this, this particular mission of ISRO is extremely important and relevant. Now, this is again the point. So, these are basically, if you look at Earth and the Sun, it is said that there are 5 points, 5 Lagrange points, from which you can actually observe the Sun. These are the points, these are the points which are considered to be stable. Stable means these are the points on which you can station a satellite so that the gravitational pull of the Earth and the Sun is actually cancelling out each other. So these are the 5 points where the satellite can stay and won't be destroyed by the gravitational pull of the Sun or the Earth. It would balance out each other. This is These are these 5 points. Out of these 5 points, the one that is usually preferred is the L1 point. This is the L1 point. The reason why it is preferred is it is the closest to the sun, as you can see, and also it is the most stable. It does not hinder the view. This is the Earth. Even if the when the even when the Earth revolves, it would not really hinder the view of the satellite from the sun. That is why L1 point is the one that is the most important. That is considered to be the most stable one. The L1 mission was launched in September 2023, and officially the aim was to study sun's corona, solar magnetic field, and solar radiation. And we put it in the L1 point, which is 1.5 million kilometers from Earth, to have an uninterrupted view of the sun. The important payloads means important machines, etc., that it carried include SOOT. This is a telescope which has captured the image. Then visible emission line chronograph and Helios as spectrometer as well. These are the important pointers or important payloads that were a part of Aditya L1 mission. As I said, L1 is important. Why? Because it is the most stable gravitational zone between the sun and the earth, and it allows to monitor the solar activity without the earth's interference. It's not just India, many countries around the world are trying to undertake study of the sun continuously. India is also playing its role there. The mission complements global solar research, I told you. NASA has a mission called Parker Solar Probe. European Union has a mission called Solar Orbiter. Do remember these things because these can be asked the name of the mission to match with their country. All these are solar missions that are being carried out by different nations around the world. The next article that we have here is about the meeting between Indian Prime Minister and the EU leaders. As you know, a team of EU leaders was in India. Under the discussions held by India and EU, both of them decided to put a deadline of end of the year to have a trade, security and defense deal. Now, India, EU are big trading partners, not as big as EU and China. And we have been trying to sign a trade agreement with EU for a long time, but somehow it has not been successful. EU is a very demanding trade partner. They demand a lot of changes in your laws and policies and regulations before they sign a free trade agreement, because of which the deals have not been finalized. Now, the two sides have decided to put a deadline to it so that we can work in a much faster manner. The deadline is end of 2025 so that these deals can be signed. Now, what exactly was the highlight of the meeting? What was being discussed and what are the takeaways? Let's discuss that first. So, the idea is that the two sides will conclude a trade agreement by the end of the year. And if it is done, it will be one of the largest trade pacts globally because, as I said, both sides are big trading partners. Negotiations are on mainly about the tariffs. Europe is concerned about the tariffs imposed by India, especially on their automobiles and alcoholic beverages. Both of these things, when they are imported to India from Europe, India does impose significant amount of taxes. Also, the two sides are trying to collaborate in the field of defense. See, with the rise of China, Donald Trump coming back to the White House, there's a lot of uncertainty there. Europe has realized that they can't be dependent on America as they used to be now that Donald Trump is in power. You saw yesterday incredible uh, scenes where in a live telecast when Zelensky, that is the Ukraine president, went to meet Donald Trump on live TV. They were fighting with each other. Donald Trump was kind of threatening him that if you don't sign the deal of mineral agreement with me or rare earth agreement with me, you will lose the war. We'll withdraw the support right now. So Europe has realized that America is not such a stable friend anymore, at least if Donald Trump is president. So they have to look towards other friends as well. And similarly, the rise of China meant that India also has to look for solid friends so that they can also stand with us, be it in terms of deal, be it in terms of strategic importance. This is where both the sides are looking towards each other. Also, EU has had concerns with China. They have raised concerns about trade practices in China. EU wants to be very ethical when it comes to trading in China. This is again where both the sides, India and EU, are looking to forge better partnership to have an alternative to US and China. Also, the Ukraine Russia war doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And with Donald Trump not seeming to be too interested in supporting EU in the long run, the two sides can actually help each other in a much better manner. On the same side, on the same page, there are still challenges that remain because of which the free trade agreement negotiations have been going on for such a long time. As I said earlier, the problem is EU has been demanding tariff cuts from the side of India, especially on European cars and alcohol. India historically has had this history that even if we sign a free trade agreement, we are concerned that domestic industry should not be harmed. So if we basically stop imposing taxes or if we lower the taxes on products we import, then they will become cheaper. And our Indian citizens will buy those products rather than buying Indian company products, which is what we do not want. That is where India continues to put higher taxes to safeguard our own industry. In the past, also, these talks have been going on. For example, the free trade agreement talk began as back as 2007, so almost 2 decades, but they were stalled until 2022. India has missed free trade agreement deadline with many countries. It's not that if a deadline is set, we will achieve it. So just because we have set a deadline with EU doesn't mean that it will happen. With UK, Australia, Canada, with all of these, we have missed these deadlines in the past. So it is not to say that by end of the year we will have this FTA being signed. Now, this FTA, free trade agreement, does have a lot of importance because if you look at the numbers, EU is India's third largest trading partner after US and China. Bilateral trade in 2023 increased or exceeded 120 billion euros. EU also is a major source of foreign direct investment in India. Countries such as France, Germany, Switzerland, all of these contribute to India's economy. If we could finalize a free trade agreement, that means Indian products will have a better access to the European markets. Indian professionals will have a better access to their market. It will be easier for them to go and settle there. That is where the two sides are seen to finalize this agreement. And as I said, both of them want to reduce their dependence on China, India more so. EU also does not want to get dependent on China because they understand that in the long run, China is a big rival against them. Now, if you take a step ahead and see the other issues related in the free trade agreement, you will see that India and EU have been trying hard to come to a settlement in this particular field. India and EU signed a strategic partnership agreement in 2004, but the negotiations have been very slow because of a lot of demands on the side of EU. So demands from EU are not just even related to trade. For example, in the past, EU has demanded that India should abolish capital punishment, India should improve its human rights record, only then we'll sign a free trade agreement. So there are many unrelated demands also that EU has had from time to time. The major EU imports from India, the things that they buy from India include pharmaceutical, textile, engineering goods. On the other hand, what India buys from EU includes machinery, transport equipment, etc. Unless India agrees to drastically cut down the tariffs on automobiles and EU products such as alcohol, etc., it will be difficult for the free trade agreement to actually be finalized. Uh, this free trade agreement does have some benefits for India. It will be in line with our Make in India Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative. It will help our products get a better access to European markets and increase the trade even further. But again, just because we have set a deadline doesn't mean that it will be done by the end of the year. The last article that we have here is about the scientific publications. Are Union Minister for Science and Technology has said that by 2029, India will go past America in terms of scientific publications. Now, scientific publications, the number of publications that are done every year, is a big indicator of your research, of the innovation that is happening in your country, because it is on the basis of these scientific papers and publications that discoveries are carried out in the future. Countries such as US and China are usually at the top of the line every single year. But India is also working well in this regard. These are usually papers that are published by scientists, by researchers from big universities. India wants to increase that number, especially in the field of AI, artificial intelligence, nuclear energy, etc. As of 2023, if you look at the global ranking, as per the article, China ranks number one in terms of number of publications every year, close to 9 lakh. America close to 4.5 lakh, India just over 2 lakh. But it is projected by the government that by 2029, India will surpass the US within 4 years, increasing our research output and investment in science. See, the scale of population that we have, we should be with China at the top two, anyways. But doing all these research, publishing these research papers you have discussed this earlier also requires a lot of investment. Because unless you're investing money, researching, and then finding out something new, there's no point of writing research papers. Research papers require a lot of research, which require a lot of investment as well. Apart from this, the Stanford University also publishes something called the top 2% scientist list. So they give a list of top 2% scientists around the world. And in this, they have ranked 5,351 Indian scientists in top 2%. So number of scientists in this top 2% list is actually increasing in the past few years. We are 10th globally when it comes to the number of scientists that are in top 2%. US is number one with 71,000 scientists, China 27,000 scientists. We are in top 10 with 5,300 scientists as of now. We are increasing it every single year. One good part is, although our overall budget for research and development is still low, but if you look at how it has been, or how the trend has been, it is increasing. From 2013-14, when the research budget was about 2,700 crore, now it has jumped to over 10 times and it has reached over 28,000 crore. The areas where a lot of focus has been put on research include space research, a lot of money goes to ISRO, quantum computing, artificial intelligence. See, this is again a big jump, but it is still much, much lower than some of the countries such as China and US. But if you compare with the earlier decade, at least in that comparison, we are doing very well and increasing the amount of money that the government is spending on research. Now, if you look at the overall expenditure on R&D, we discussed this a few days earlier as well. India spends around 0.7% of our GDP on R&D, much lower than other countries. And again, even India's GDP base is lower. So on a lower base, we are spending even lower. For US and China, their GDP is much higher. And then on that higher base, they are spending even better money. So that is a huge difference between India and these countries. The aim is to increase our research development expenditure to 2% of the GDP by 2030. There are multiple institutes in India that are leading the research in India in different fields. IITs, CSIR, there is ISRO, Department of Biotechnology, all of them working in their field. And we have seen the results in CSIR, ISRO from time to time. However, there are challenges that we are facing right now. The biggest challenge being brain drain. And again, it is connected to all these things. When the scientists know that we don't get enough money in India for research, or our research will not be valued, they think it is better that I will shift somewhere outside so that I get more value and more money. So there is a problem of brain drain. Limited private sector participation. Private companies have not been spending a lot of money in research and development, but it's a dangerous thing. You might spend 1,000 crore rupees in building a new weapon and building a new medicine. At the end of the day, it may just fail. So all that money will go to waste. So it's not an easy job to spend a lot of money in research and development. Also, while a number of publications in India is increasing, the patent filing is much lower. So the writing part is fine, but we are not converting that into practical technology. We are not converting them into patents as of now. These are the important articles from today's Hindu newspaper of 1st of March. Let's test ourselves, see if we are able to answer these questions. Number one, Consider the following statement about wetlands. Wetlands acts as natural sponge by absorbing excess rainfall and preventing floods. Yes. India has more than 100 Ramsar sites. No, we discussed 89 right now. Montreux lists the sites with stable ecological conditions. Stable or under danger? They are a list of those that are under danger. The answer thus would be C. One only here is correct. Next, consider the following statement about AI regulation in India. Number one, India has implemented a national AI law similar to EU. No, we don't have a national AI law. US follows a strict regulatory framework. No, EU follows a strict regulatory framework. US is more liberal. Competition Commission of India received complaints from Indian startups against foreign AI platforms. Yes, they have done that about monopoly of foreign platforms. The answer thus is C. Consider a statement about India's L1 mission. It is India's first space-based mission dedicated to studying the sun. Yes. Mission is positioned in geostationary orbit. No. L1 point. Aim is to study sun's corona, solar flares, and space weather. Yes. The answer thus is B. 1 and 3 here are correct. What is the significance of placing L1 at the Lagrange point 1? Allows continuous observation without the Earth's atmosphere interference. Keeps the spacecraft close to Earth for easy transmission. Helps in studying interaction between sun and moon. Enables satellite to operate using solar energy. The answer is 1A. That is, we discussed, this is a point that is the closest to the sun and allows observation without interference from the Earth. With reference to India's research output, consider the following. India currently ranks second in the world for largest number of scientific publications. No, we are in third. Aim is to get to second by 2029. Number of Indian scientists in top 2% list compiled by Stanford has been increasing. Yes. India's gross expenditure on R&D is higher than that of China, US. No, lower than that. We discussed it, lower than many countries, in fact. The answer thus is B. 2 only is correct. This was the session for the day. I hope it was helpful and enriching. If you are new here, do hit the like and the subscribe button and do join us tomorrow as well at 9 a.m. when we discuss the Hindu newspaper. Thank you so much. My name is Harshmeet Singh. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.